mention before we start that the Bob Engel was elected to the board, and he was invited to be here tonight, and he had something come up today, and he was unable to attend the meeting. We plan on having him sit up here with us so he can get tuned into the electronic school board, but he has assured me he will be here in December. And with that, it is 7 o'clock, and I will go ahead and call this meeting of the Northwest Local School District Board of Education to order. Amy, if you would please call the roll.
Mr. Unger?
Here.
Mr. Harlow?
Here.
Mr. Heather?
Here.
Mrs. Detzel? Here. Mr. Detzel?
Here.
I would ask that you would join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Love those little voices.
And we'll move on to our next item, which is approval of minutes. Mr. Bowling?
Yes, you'll see listed the regular minutes from October 26th. The treasurer and superintendent recommend the Board of Education approve the minutes as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call for a vote. And the meeting minutes are approved 5-0. And our next item is a special recognition. Pauletta?
Yes, I'm very pleased this evening to be able to present Miss Amanda Pratt from Rumpke Waste and Recycling. Amanda is here tonight to talk to us about a partnership that Rumpke is coordinating with the Northwest Local School District. Amanda?
Good evening. Part of Rumpke's tradition since the 1930s has always been not just to service communities, residents, and businesses, but also to be part of the communities where we operate our business. And Colerain and Northwest Schools has always held a very special place in the hearts of our leaders and our ownership and in our employees, because so many of our employees either attended Northwest Local Schools and then come to work with us, or they have kids that are in the school system today. So over the years, we've tried to be very involved in the schools. I think we started as one of the early business partners in education back in 1995. And today we're partners with 3 schools, Pleasant Run Middle School, Northwest High School, and also Taylor Elementary. So it's been my pleasure to get to be part of those partnerships over the years. And it really has been wonderful when we do some educational outreach with our engineering department and with our safety team. And it's been great to be part of that. We also got involved in the body shop when we first built that at Northwest High School. So tonight I'm really excited about the next endeavor and what's next. And part of that is the Building Camelot campaign. We view education to be something that has to be well-rounded and involve the academics as well as health and wellness and opportunities for team building and leadership skills. And we're excited to announce that we are happily contributing $30,000 annually for the next 10 years in support of the Camelot project at Northwest Local Schools. So we're excited. Thank you all. It's a wonderful opportunity for us, and we look forward to the graduates that are coming out of the school system, and we hope that they'll consider working with us at Rumpke someday. And like I said, we're happy to be part of the community and happy to be part of this project. We think it's a great one and really excited to see this infrastructure be built and to be part of it. Thank you so much.
Dan, if I could just add a couple things. Their relationship goes much further past than this donation for the Camelot program. For years, our students have applied for $1,000 scholarships. They get 5 per year at Northwest High School. They've made a lot of differences in a lot of kids' lives through Northwest. Some kids who couldn't afford books, who couldn't afford that last little bit of money they needed to go to college, and to see the excitement on the kids' face when they award those scholarships. And then our science classes, our 9th grade classes, taking field trips, learning more about Rumpke. So it's unbelievable what they do for our district and for our kids, and it is truly appreciated.
No question, Todd. The Rumpkes, a lot of them live right here in the district. I know My sister used to run with Missy, and the twins that are a year or two older than her, and I can probably name, they all have the same last name, but I can probably name 20 of them that have different first names of the Rumpke family, and they are genuinely good-hearted people, and we can't thank you enough for your help with this project. So,
as a Northwest alumni and
here's Mike. Okay.
and a resident, I want to thank you. This is so exciting. I can't wait till we see that completed. And Todd, the other thing you forgot about, now my kids are all grown, but I'll never forget my oldest, the first time coming home from Pleasant Run Middle School, Mom, I get to ride in a garbage truck. And I'm like, what? But they provide, I didn't envision what it was, but you still do it for the homecoming parade, and the kids all get to climb in there, and it makes a big difference. I mean, the kids get very excited, so you've done a lot for us, and we appreciate it very much.
I'd just like to personally thank you for the donation Rumpke is making in support of our district and in support of Northwest High School. And, we have things like this excellent building campaign and the levy passing. It's just really an exciting time to be here.
And my parents moved into the Northwest District in 1955, and I can remember probably around 1961 waiting for the bus, which the bus stop happened to be our front driveway, so it was very convenient. And the Rumpke trucks back then didn't have the compressor or whatever they call the
Compactor.
The compactor. Thank you, Dan. And the guys would take the garbage and throw it up over the thing. And we kind of got friendly with them after seeing them for week after week. And then all of a sudden these compactor trucks came, and it was like, wait a minute, what is this? But many thank yous. Northwest is on the upswing, both the high school and the district. And to have turf over there is going to be a huge thing. So thank you very much.
And Amanda, I want to echo what everybody else has said, and I really appreciate the time you put into the school district.
And thank you very much. And we'll move right along to our next item, which is the special presentation, Todd.
Yes, let's try this again. We have a group from Northwest High School who are going to do a presentation on building Camelot, the field turf for Northwest High School. It encompasses a lot of other things, though, that are very important that they've put a lot of time into. So at this time, I don't know who's going to go first. I believe Amanda and Susan and Brad. Everybody.
Together.
Yeah, come on.
Together.
Good evening. Thanks for having us. I'm going to introduce my team first before we get started, and we're all going to kind of share different pieces of our presentation tonight. But this is our Assistant Athletic Director, Amanda Robinson, our Athletic Director, Brad Watkins, Dorothy Haynes, and Dana Schoen, who are both part of the boosters and who have really spearheaded our Building Camelot program, especially this school year. So before we get started, I want to also thank Rumpke, all of us do, because we're not sure that we'd be up here presenting tonight if it wasn't for your company's generosity. So thank you very much for your support of our school and our project. But we're going to kind of talk a little bit about phase 2 of Building Camelot and give some background, since a lot of you sitting here probably don't even know where we started, and we want to give you that background information and how we've been working on this actually over the last couple of school years. First of all, the school has been around. We had our 40th anniversary last year, and this is the most aggressive by far, obviously, fundraising campaign for our athletic facilities, but just in general. So the goal is, and was and still is, to raise $900,000. That was adding together everything we wanted to do to give our students an updated, state-of-the-art quality athletic facilities. So when we mention turf tonight, it's like Todd said, there's so much more that's involved than just the turf, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's already been done and what's still coming up with our projects. So we want to emphasize that. We want to emphasize it's for all of our sports and all of our students, and it's to really improve the Northwest community, specifically athletics. So this is kind of a list of the improvements, things that we want to and have already done. We bolded the ones that have already been completed so that you can see where we are in our progress. So we have, with the district's generosity, we got our tennis courts resurfaced this summer. So if you drive by Pimpin Road, you will see our blue tennis courts that we're so glad are at the front of our school and very proud of. We also, last year, had improved drainage for our baseball field. Those of you who are baseball coaches, you know if you can't drain the field, you can't play the game, so we were having to cancel games. So this helped quite a bit with keeping on our schedule for our students. We expanded our wrestling room and purchased a third mat for our wrestling program. And then we also worked through boosters to purchase new volleyball pole and net system. So the ones in bold, again, are the ones that have been completed. The things that are listed up there that aren't bold are things that we want to work on improving for the school in a variety of areas and, again, a variety of sports. So a baseball batting cage and tarps, permanent softball fencing. Right now it's movable. Working on resurfacing our track, improved seating for baseball and softball, the installation of a retaining wall below the baseball outfield fence, updating our locker rooms, visiting stadium bleachers is on our wish list, and the installation of a synthetic playing surface in the football stadium or turf. And so just to give you a bit of background on the timeline, we actually started, I had just been hired when Joe Pollitt, who was the athletic director at the time, and Ed Mayer, who's here, and some of our other dedicated parents came to me and said, yes, I know you're the new principal here, but we really want to start this campaign. I was like, let's do it. Let's raise almost $1 million. I've never been a principal before. This is going to be really fun. Okay. But it really did start that way. It was a casual conversation in a library after school one day. Let's get this done. Our facilities need huge improvements, and we just know there's not that money out there from the district. So what are we going to do, to start this project? So in January 2014 is when we say Building Camelot was officially launched. And so we started our campaign drive and started, pounding the pavement to some of our business sponsors to try to get people on board and gain momentum with the project. And I talked about this a little bit, but these are some of the things that have already been done and kind of our small scale upgrades. And it sounds weird to say small scale, but the tennis court resurfacing was huge. Our volleyball coach thanked us 15 times for a new pole and net system, and it's just like, this is where we started to gain some momentum from these improvements. And so I'm going to have Amanda talk a little bit about timeline from there.
So within just a few, months and years of working, in March of 2015, we did approach the boosters in terms of, you guys are the ones that started this. What type of financial commitment are our boosters willing to make? And they are a huge part of what we are able to do at Northwest Athletics. So there was a motion passed for a $100,000 loan. That's a 10-year commitment that they are making with the Board of Education. In March of that same year, the Northwest Local Board of Education approves the permanent improvement funds for the tennis court repairs that we've already mentioned. And again, those are so fantastic. We've got some great pictures of the girls already out there, and with the warm temperatures, our boys have already started open courts with our coach Breyer. In February of 2015, the first major donor was secured. Corning Township developer pledged a one-time donation of $25,000. In March of 2015, funds from the 2012 UC Health Agreement became the first corporate dollars allocated to the Building Camelot, with a $200,000 pledge to be dispersed over the next 10 years. That was an agreement that we've already had with UC Health, but as the athletic department and as the boosters, we decided that that money should be allocated towards Building Camelot. In April 2015, with the Moats Group and the Reds Community Fund, we were able to have that baseball field renovation. And then the end of that month, our grand total of individual pledges and donations are $42,010. So that is what we have accumulated in pledges to date. In May of 2015, I know we announced this with Amanda today, but this has been a few months, really more than a few months, probably more like a year in the making. Rumpke agreed to a 10-year, $300,000, so $30,000 each year sponsorship to Northwest High School as a partner in education through the 2025 to 2026 school year. Keeping in place the $1,000 scholarships to 5 graduating seniors every year. also serving as a title sponsor for the health fair each year in August, and then they will also be part of our career day at Northwest High School.
So, as we move into, that brings us up to speed. That brings us to tonight, really. Susan made the comment that, you know, when she took over the job, she got a $900,000 project laid in her lap. Well, I took the job being a first-time athletic director and saying, hey, Brad, here you go. You get to see the turf project through and keep on working. So I said, okay, and gladly. October of this year, we had a kickoff meeting with several people from the district that are here this evening, Chris McKee, Kleiners, Mr. Bowling, Pauletta. We had a kickoff meeting and decided to start exploring and doing some real deep homework with the Moats group as to what this turf project is going to look like, and that really kicks off phase 2. Obviously tonight, our board presentation, turf and track and drainage product coordination begins and permits to be obtained. We hope to be moving forward with that very quickly. You know, this is an ongoing effort. You know, as you can see, this isn't just, you know, a flash in the pan or, hey, I got this idea, let's get this together. This is an ongoing effort. Funds are going to continue to need to be raised. You know, our department's vision of community outreach, securing further sponsorship and further funds for this project to come to its complete fruition is still going to be an ongoing effort. You know, case in point, Amanda and I are going to be on the Bill Cunningham show at 2:30 on Wednesday afternoon, so I advise you to tune in because we are going to be, every chance that Amanda and I get and anyone up here presenting this evening has to present to the community and say we are Northwest. This is going to be a continued effort, an ongoing effort to make sure this project gets to come to fruition. There's a little rendering from the Moats group of what the field will look like. Obviously, it's going to be a multi-purpose field. We do have 2 soccer teams that will also compete on our surface, as well as the football team. Not so much in great detail here, but I assure you that those renderings and those markings are all the scope to meet the needs of both our soccer teams and our football team. And it looks pretty snazzy with the off color. Phase 2 and beyond planned projects. Again, I mentioned that this is an ongoing effort, and Susan alluded to some projects that are still on the wish list. The installation of the synthetic field in the football stadium will kick off here within you know, the school year. We're looking at a March date. Track resurfacing, that's an ongoing effort, and I believe that we're going to be we're progressing very well in regards to that project. Improved drainage in softball fields and baseball batting cage and tarps for baseball, softball. Those items are all things that I've had conversations with people, and again, ongoing effort, ongoing fundraising. This is a huge undertaking and campaign that will go the scope of the school year and beyond. Again, permanent softball, improved seating for baseball and softball, retaining wall below the baseball, outfield fence. Bobby Meyer, our grounds guy, for those of you that know Bobby, has already started to get in my ear about that. And visiting stadium bleachers and refresh the locker rooms, those are on the wish list as well, and this will be a continued effort. So how are we going to go about doing that? You know, there's a grant writing process that we have going on right now that's totaling upwards of $140,000 that we hope to be able to secure. But even beyond that, you know, Dorothy, who is going to present next, has been a godsend in regards to finding grant opportunities and presenting those. So it is a team effort with how we've gone about writing these grants. Google is an amazing thing. Susan and Amanda and I, and we've all been on a Google Doc here and there here recently, actively writing grants. And corporate partners and prospects luncheon. You know, that's a vision that quite frankly, Amanda and I, when I got the job, sat down and said, how can we engage the community? And then to piggyback our community engagement plans as an athletic department with, you know, the potential to raise funds and further our reach in this project really kind of coincided with each other. So on December the 10th at 11:30, we are going to hold a community luncheon. It's, We Are Northwest is the theme, where all of you guys will get get invites, but we're going to really showcase what's going on at Northwest High School, both in the classroom, okay, and in the athletic realm as well. So very excited about that, and please mark your calendars. Is that you? That's still me, sorry. Again, as a part of the community-wide effort to build Camelot together, several sponsorship options are available based on the levels of participation and support. We've put together a lot of, and you'll see in your packets, we've got some pamphlets, we've got donorship cards, we've got, yep, there you go. We've got a lot of things in place to continue this effort moving forward with our sponsorship opportunities. And it's going to be greatly appreciated, and we're very excited to get these things off. So, thank you. Uh-oh. I'm going. What happened? All right. Can you fix that, please? I hit the... Show your fingers. All of that.
Okay, so I'm sure you guys can all kind of feel the excitement that building Camelot is generating in Northwest High School. And I imagine if I was sitting in your spot right now, you would be thinking, how can I get involved?
And there are actually a number of ways to get involved to help build Camelot. We have been working specifically with within our community and kind of talking to everyone, literally, as Brad said, everyone that we come across, introducing them to building Camelot, reminding them of Northwest, who we are and who we've grown to be, and seeking out those individual donors. Those donor slips and those donor brochures are out on the table there. Just a heads up for you. If you like to grab one, take one, make a one-time pledge. You notice we sell this all the time, right? Make an extended pledge and come out and support Northwest and Northwest Local School District. We are actually also tasked with approaching our small business partners and supporters and negotiating ways for them to support Northwest, not just with cash, but also with in kind, with a lot of awareness, building awareness in the community. Our goal, when we talked to Brad, our first meeting, was to see Northwest everywhere. Wherever there's a Northwest student, wherever there's a Northwest parent, wherever Northwest people go to buy their gas, we want to see that flying in. We want to see that building Camelot, and it's our intention to cover this part of Coleraine Township with Northwest. We are also working with event sponsors. Dana's going to talk a little bit more about our major event of the year, and we've already secured some pretty decent partners and have some great opportunities coming up with those. Corporate sponsors more or less fall under Brad's umbrella, and we seek them out. We get them where we can. We sift through them and send them to Brad and Amanda, as well as our partners in education, and our Adopt-A-Team program, which is a really neat program and an opportunity for people who want to support specific teams, specific sports, who want to make sure that those players have everything that they need, that they have their pay to play, that they have their wrestling shoes, that they have everything that they need to be able to compete. Building Camelot committee representatives, we are always looking for. And we will ask anyone, wherever you are, we want to make sure there is adequate representation of every member of and every segment of Coleraine Township and its feeder schools. That means we have talked to coaches from the individual sports, we have talked to staff, we have talked to community members as well as small business owners, and I'm going to have Dana talk a little bit about how we're moving forward and bringing them under the tent of Northwest building Camelot and helping us kind of fulfill this goal.
Something that we're really excited about is the Knights of the Round Table. It's a young alumni group. They're really kids because some of them graduated last year, some of them in the last 5 years. They're wanting to reach out to our Northwest graduates from the last, say, 10 years and try and build that base up to support our alumni and really build the alumni strong in our building. So they're really excited and on board to help us build Camelot, which is so refreshing to have your graduates come back and really want to pour into their community. This is really a community project, and it's so important for all of us to buy into this. Last year we had our Running with the Knights 5K. It was our first annual 5K event, and we are so fortunate to be able to have that benefit, not just because of the amount of money we raised. It ended up being a really rainy day. We had a lot of people sign up to run, but it really brought our community together, and it really put building Camelot Northwest High School at the forefront of that. You know, all of these schools and programs, Northwest Mighty Knights, all of our elementary schools on that side and the middle school, they funnel up to the high school at some point, and into boosters and into PTA. So for us to be able to pull an event together for our community on Northwest High School's property was quite refreshing, actually. We're excited. April 17th is our next Running with the Knights 5K. I encourage all of you, get out there and come run with us. If you're not a runner, walk it. We really have a really nice piece of property there at Northwest, and it's kind of a fun walk. We have a really good time, and the kids come out. We're going to this year have some kids runs to try and bring up our, our younger kids. And it's all about health and wellness, which is so important. And it just ties into all of our Building Camelot theme.
Okay, and paving the way to Camelot, our pagination's a little wonky, but you can see paving the way to Camelot. If you look in and you see those shields, you guys have just got mock-ups of them. Those are part of the idea to cover Northwest with those shields, with those pavers. It's just something small. It's very grassroots. But wherever there are nights, there will be those pavers paving the way to Camelot, and there will be those flags and shields that will be lining all of the walls, all of the halls, and all of our feeder schools, as well as our high school. So whether it's just a family name, whether it's a corporate sponsor, whether it's an individual donor, you can buy those shields at a game. They're $3. Literally, you'll probably be sick of us asking you to buy those shields. Buy one for every member of your family, as well as the pavers, which are just $1. And the smaller Knights shields that go to the smaller feeder schools will be available for $1 at all of their events also. We'll have our Flying In window cling, which I always look at Brad when I see the Flying In. That's his, as well as the Building Camelot bumper stickers and the Building Camelot window clings that will go into all of our business partners and community partners throughout the Coleraine Township area.
So, last piece of community involvement. December 3rd, and I put an invitation in your folders. December 3rd, we're reaching out into the community, to the leaders in our community. We're reaching to all of the elementary schools on our side of the district, the middle school, Northwest Mighty Knights, because they are a big part of our programs at the high school, and finding the leaders in those schools, or maybe even the parents or teachers or coaches that we see them exhibiting some special quality, or they're who we see around the community quite often. So we're reaching out to them in the next 2 weeks and inviting them to this event, where we're going to honor them and thank them for everything they do for our community. We're excited about this because we're bringing all of our Northwest volunteers and leaders into one room to really talk about what can we do to really impact what's happening at Northwest High School and in the Northwest community. Because that's something that we really need on this side, is just that feeling of Northwest community. And that's really what Building Camelot's about. It's really building Camelot right there on Pippin Road at Northwest High School.
And this is also where we're going to be kicking off phase 2 of the pledge drive. And every individual that's at that event is going to be taking with them a pledge kit and the materials to do whatever it is they decide that they're going, whatever level they decide they're going to be involved in, whether it's soliciting pledges, coming aboard as a Building Camelot committee member, or an event coordinator or event sponsor to work with the event team. So there's a lot that's happening there. It's a twofold goal. It's to recognize the volunteers who have put in so much work up until this point, past and present, as well as kind of recruiting and introducing new members and new volunteers and helping them understand who Northwest is. We know we're Northwest, and help them understand who Northwest is and how they can help impact our student body. And that's usually something that goes to everyone that shows up at a Northwest event. It's just our way of making sure that we're capturing every single individual that walks through our doors, whether they're parent, student, community member, alumni, and how they're involved, ever have been involved, have ever thought about being involved with Northwest High School, and are they currently involved with other organizations outside of Northwest High School. A lot of us are involved in a lot of volunteer activities, not just in Colerain Township, but throughout the city, and there are always some amazing opportunities to cross-promote, to engage those other organizations and kind of build some bridges that we don't have already. So that is just a tool that Dana and I use, and we hope to be to use it more throughout the school and more throughout our feeder schools to just kind of glean more information about who our volunteer base is and where they come from.
And giving them every opportunity to volunteer, whatever level that is.
As easy as
Not
possible.
something-
And that's us.
Well, thank you very much for a good presentation. You are a very good speaker, and I'm sure that you can capture just about any audience you want.
Thank you for that. I'll be looking for you for a donation later.
Here's my punch card. I filled out a punch card.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
And just so you guys know, later in the meeting under the business section, you will see where the donations are coming for. So Rumpke, the $30,000 a year for 10 years, the board still has to front that money, and then they receive it as they get paid back. UC Medical is down to $180, so they get $20,000 a year for 10 years. The boosters will be taking out or wanting to give us $100,000 that they'll pay back over time. The $42,000 donation you saw there, plus the $25,000 for Kroger. So at the December meeting, we will have a contract that will have to be agreed upon between the boosters and the district in order for this to go forward.
Okay, thank you, Todd. And we will move right along to our next item, which is a special presentation, Mr. Bowling. Jenny? He's going to take this.
Tonight we have members of the Montford Heights Robotics team with us, and I'd like to invite you guys up. A few weeks ago, Mr. Unger was contacted by Kate Petrie, a fourth grade student at Montford Heights Elementary, who asked if they could present to the Board of Education on their current project. Tonight they're here with Michelle Fricke, who is the leader of the robotics team, so I'm just going to let them take it away. I think they look ready.
I'm Claire Stanford. I'm Kate Petrie. Hello. Thank you for inviting us to your board meeting. We are from the Mumford Heights Robotics team. This year's theme for our project is Trash Trek. We are here to tell you about the styrofoam or polystyrene trays we use in our school district. We have learned that in our schools, the children are eating toxic chemicals in the styrofoam trays. The kids are eating the chemicals by having the hot food on the trays, and the chemicals are leaching into the hot food. Also, the trays are not biodegradable and are filling up our landfills. Not only is the styrofoam filling our landfills, it is also polluting our waterways. Currently, our school is using about 400 styrofoam trays per day to serve both breakfast and lunch. We found out that New York City, as well as other school districts across the country, are banning styrofoam in their district. They have found a couple different alternatives to styrofoam, which will cost less than styrofoam lunch trays and is made of sugar cane. These trays are better for people's health and the environment. Some effects of styrofoam are depression, concentration problems, muscle weakness, tiredness, and nausea are just a few problems. We also have to share this at our competition in December. Our competition is at Cincinnati State. Thank you for listening to our presentation. We would like to come back to another board meeting to inform you on the results of how we did in our competition and some other facts which we have researched this year about polystyrene.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Do you have a tray in your hand?
Yeah.
And is that
This is what we use for
that's
lunch.
what you're currently using? And these canes, these trays that are made from sugar cane, do you have one of those also, or have you seen those, or
We saw them online.
did you?
I think we need to set up a meeting between you two and our new business director. We would love to have you come back and let us know how you do at Cincinnati State.
And can you introduce your other two student guests?
Caleb and Julius.
Well, thank you for being here, and congratulations on your project.
Thank you very much.
If I could have that team out in the hall for a team picture.
Yeah. Better get rid of it.
Go ahead. There we go. And the next item is our legislative update by Board Representative Mr. Harlow.
I thank you. I don't have much of a report tonight. Most of the legislation that's being introduced now in education-related forums are minor tweaks around things such as College Credit Plus, something about attendance also. But I do expect the fight over Common Core to kind of be reignited here in the next few weeks. But other than that's something to deal with at the state level, obviously, and so we'll keep an eye on that and many other things. But over the next couple months, I really just expect mostly minor tweaks in the education legislation. And next year, back in January, we'll begin the process for a mid-biennium review, and we'll probably see some more major policy issues addressed then. So that concludes my report.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Harlow. And moving right along, the SALT report. Pam, I think you take a lead on that.
I do. I got that working. We have some special guests from Colerain Elementary. I'd like to introduce Bethany Cole, a teacher, and Karen Brockhaus, the librarian for Colerain Elementary, Partners in Print.
They're little partners, aren't they?
Maybe patient little guys back here.
Yes.
I think that's where I heard the Pledge of Allegiance back there. You guys did a great
They did
job.
a great job. You guys want to stand with Karen? So Mrs. Brockhaus and I, we have done this program called Partners in Print. It's been going on at Colerain Elementary for about 20 years. This is our 12th year doing it together. We're a good team. We enjoy it. We have some amazing families that donated their time tonight, and they want to speak on behalf of what they got out of our program. But just to give you a background, it's a K to second grade program. It's in the evening, 4 consecutive weeks, 1 night a week. And it's all voluntary. Here are some of the pictures and things of activities we do. But it's just a fun way for families to get together and just have fun with literature, whether it's they're learning their letter sound correspondence or they're learning sight words, or if they're deep down into the chapter books and things like that. Our goal is to have every parent walk away with a tool in their tool belt and getting the kids excited and pumped for reading. So I'm going to invite some of our awesome parents that came up, and the kids have a special activity. They're going to come, if that's okay with you, they're going to come in between you here in a minute and show you one of their favorite activities.
Well, just as a parent of a 5th grader and a kindergartner, when you're learning to read with your kids and you're going over the same word and it's it and they're trying to get it out and it's like dinosaur and you're like, no, it's not. And Bethany talks about that, but it's so true. That's what we go through as a parent. So the activities and the games that we learned throughout October have just been so helpful, and it makes it as if you're not even learning. The kids don't even realize that they're learning to read when they're playing a game and looking at their sight words, and we really appreciate them giving up their evenings to spend with our families too. So.
Great. Can you step up to the microphone when you speak? Sure.
I'm a parent of a 2nd grader and a kindergartner, and they've both gone through the program, and I want to thank Colerain Elementary and Mrs. Brockhaus and Mrs. Poole. It's an amazing program. We didn't know what to expect with our kindergartner who went through it first, and she loved it, absolutely loved it. And we have a kindergartner this year who could not wait for that letter to come home from school so she could go to the reading program too. But it helps give the parents the tools to help the children at home, and it teaches us how the school is teaching them to read so that we can work on it the same way at home as what they're doing at school, and it makes it much less frustrating for us and for them. And we've just loved it as a family. It's a great opportunity to spend family time with them, one-on-one, 1 night a week through October, and then to do it at home. And it's fun to see our older daughter help our younger daughter because she knows what they did when she was in the program. So it's a great, great program, and we appreciate it a lot.
Well, we have our awesome helpers up here. Can you say your name to everybody so they know what your name is? Morgan.
Austin.
Austin.
And Olivia.
And Olivia. And they have a cool activity they're going to take some time and show you. So come on, you guys ready? All right. So we're going to put you right in between here, okay? Right there. Austin, you want to come right in? Right, let me move that so it's right over here. Oh, boy. I'm looking for one.
What do you have here, Austin?
Hello, young Austin.
We are
So you're putting together a sentence that says, we are from...
Corin Elementary.
Wow. Into the microphone.
We are from Corin Elementary.
Very good. Great job, buddy.
I like to go Kings Island. We eat turkey for Thanksgiving.
Very good.
There's three very important sentiments that the kids have expressed here.
Very good. Here you go, buddy. Let's get here.
Congratulations on your project.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Want to say something else?
Good job.
So once again, I'd like to thank the parents and the families and boys and girls. You guys were amazing. You guys did a very nice job waiting patiently back there, and I can't thank you enough for all your time and your efforts. So.
And we couldn't do without, funding from our PTA, which backs us up, and with Title I funds. We feed them pizza, they come. That's all I can say.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you guys want to step outside, I think Mrs. Crowley will take your picture. So, thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. And our next item will be our Butler Tech update. Mr. Detzel?
Yeah, Dan, just a short one. We got all the comments back from our all boards meeting that we went to last month up at D. Russell Lee, and the comments were fabulous, and everybody really enjoyed it, enjoyed the food, and the CTSOs giving their presentation. And we are in the midst of getting our committees together for our new superintendent search. And our actual board meeting is tomorrow night.
Great. I hope you enjoy the board meeting tonight and bring us back some great
And
information.
another one tomorrow night. Yeah.
Now, you guys have a lot of stuff on the plate up there, so thank you, Jim. Our next item is a special report. Mr. Bowling?
Yes, the next is, turn this over to Jenny.
Tonight we have Trey Rishman from Taylor Elementary, who's going to present his principal's data report.
Got the Bengal tie on.
That's right. Got my orange on.
Today.
Me too.
Not Gators, though. Not
Yep.
the Gators.
Actually, it is blue and orange.
Is that a hint? See what I can do.
You didn't just give him 45 minutes, Jim, did you?
No, I did.
Okay.
All right, I want to thank everybody. Good evening. I'm the principal at Taylor Elementary, and I'm going to go over our three main focuses for this school year: student achievement, instruction, culture, and climate. And actually, before I forgot this 2 years ago, I want to introduce my instructional coach, Mr. Phelps, Andy Phelps in the back row, helped me put this together and does a great job helping us out. Not the other Phelps, which is Zach, but Andy. So, so again, our three main focuses: student achievement, instruction, and culture and climate. Here's last year's third grade data. That is our one score that sets up with the state of Ohio. The rest of it is we use our math data. And I'm not going to lie, wasn't good. Previous 3 years were over the cut score of 80%. Last year, 73.5. It's not what we want. It's not what we expect. So we're looking to make some changes. One thing I did, got the results back in June, started thinking about, okay, how are we going to fix this? We have some value-added data that we received from our MAP scores. which all of our students take reading and math. And from that data, and I have 2 years to figure out, to see which third grade teachers succeed in what areas. And I was able to take 3 math, 3 reading, pair them up, and so each of them will be teaching that specific focus for this coming school year, and they are. Also, another reason why I did it, last year was kind of a crazy year with the OAA. Going into the school year, we were told there wasn't going to be an OAA except for the fall, and then it was going to switch over to the park, if you recall. Well, late October, November, the state says, no, we're going to have an OAA, so we start to scramble. All right, refocus, we're going to teach them the OAA, which is different than the park. The park was going to be an online assessment, the OAA is pencil paper. Not thinking that we were going to be going into the OAA, we didn't give our second graders any practice with it because we thought we were shifting over. So a couple things going against us. But with that, hopefully, with the changes we're making, the focus areas of the teachers that they already have got data on that they succeed in, we'll be able to get back to over that cut score of the 80%. So it's not where we want to be, but there's what we were last year, hopefully with the focus. And another thing is with the teachers who, we have OAA, we had PARC, and now this year we have the AIR assessment. So with a brand new assessment, I thought, okay, if I can give the teachers one test to focus on instead of having them focus on reading and math, which they've done for the last, however long Taylor's been around, 45 years, 55 years. We want to make sure I want to make sure they can focus in one test area, focus on that, and it's going to be a strength of theirs. So hopefully with that, we'll be able to get and rebound back to where we need to be and where we expect to be. With that, one of our goals here at Taylor is 65% of our students will meet or exceed their fall to spring projected growth targets in reading for MAP MPG. And that's where things get tricky in a K-3 building because 3 of my grade levels take the MAP. Well, actually, all 4 take the MAP, but then 3rd grade has the other assessments which are going to be AIR this year. So the national average is 50 to 60% will meet the expected growth. We're going to shoot higher than that because we've got to close the gap. And I'm going to show you some data to show you that we've got to close the gap. Okay, so here is last year's data, reading fall percentile to spring percentile. And this is MAP. So kindergarten came in 53, dropped to 43. Not good. First grade in reading was at 7th percentile. 7th percentile bumped up to 14th percentile. Second grade was 32nd, 39th. Third grade, 20th, 36th. Math, you can see the same progression. Kindergarten, again, went down a little bit. The way the percentile would work, if you were in the 50th percentile in the fall, to show a year's worth of growth, you would stay in the 50th percentile. So 3 of the grade levels left their percentile they were in and actually jumped up. Looking at these scores here, still not where we need to be in achievement. Now here's a growth. And the map assessment gives us 2 pieces of data. The achievement piece, which is what I showed you, and then it shows the growth. In kindergarten, we had 41 students meet their projected growth in reading. 63 in first, 57 in second, 71 in third. The average in the nation is 50 to 60%. So if you're in that range, you're good. Above that's even better. So I've got 2 of them that have excelled. Again, kindergarten, a little behind. Math, we have 53, 70, 65, 79. Very good. But still, that's the growth piece, not the achievement. So I got to get both of them improved. Just as a comparison, there's a piece of data that you can get from the map that gives you, it's called conditional growth percentile. What that gives you is where we're being compared to schools that start in the same place we do. It gives you a percentile on how you compare to the nation with schools with like results. That's this column here. So kindergarten, 41%, and I take this back, we're going back to this one here. Of schools that started at 53rd percentile, we compared, got 39th percentile ranking. Of first grade that started in the 7th percentile, which is very low, we were in the 73rd percentile. So again, if 50th is average, we were above. Started in 32nd, 67th. Third grade, for schools that started in the 20th percentile in the nation, we finished in 93rd percentile. And then here's our math numbers. And if you look at our percentile, so of schools with like starting scores, we were 47th, 95th, 92nd, 96th. So a lot of growth is happening at Taylor Elementary. It's now, how do we continue that over the summer? Because if you look at our numbers, they keep falling back at the beginning of the school year. And so why is that? And that's what I'm trying to figure out. I know we're very transient. We have about 100 new students, 100 old students that are coming and going. Just trying to make that work. But we've got great growth, but now it's turning it over to that achievement piece and making sure that they continue to grow. So there's one piece. Obviously, with every good school, you've got good instruction. So we have 2 goals that I've set within the instructional goal. Element 2 is a district goal, which is tracking student progress. Every student is responsible to track their progress. Research shows the more that the students can take ownership of it, the better results you're going to get. And then the second element, element 10, which is, and this is all part of our Marzano evaluation system, helping students process new content. My feeling is if a student can talk about the information they're learning, the content they're learning, they have to have some understanding of it. So with the help of the teacher, if the teachers give them the content, they pair them up, listen to the conversation that they're having, the teacher can then help guide if it's something that doesn't seem on track, but then also confirm that they understand that the students are understanding what they're presenting. So with those 2, our results should continue to go back where we were. I just threw in here some scales that we evaluate the teachers on. I don't expect you guys to look at them, but there's the 5 pieces they're not using: beginning, developing, applying, innovating. And it's the same thing for element 10. And I can go into those if you would like. If not, I'm okay with that, I understand. But those are the pieces. We evaluate them. When I go into an observation, I will be looking for those 2 in every lesson. There's 41 other ones that are already part of it, but my teachers know those 2 I'll be looking for. Here's where we're at through last Friday. Tracking student progress, we're at applying, which is the second highest, and we've been doing this for a couple years now, so I expect them to be better at this. Helping students process new content, we're at developing, which is a new one we're focusing on this year. So, but by the end of the year, I expect them to be at applying. And we've spent some time in the August in-service and just in the past November in-service. Last goal is to reduce the number of office referrals and out-of-school suspensions by 33%. In my opinion, and I'm assuming yours, my suspensions are high. And my job and my goal is to try to get it minimized so that I can keep the kids in the building so that they're learning. And here are just office referrals from October of last year to October of this year. You can see we're at 52. If you see before school and after school, that's bus referrals. So during school hours, we were 52 last year, 53 this year, about the same. Suspension data from 14-15, we had 4 in September, 20 in October, 2 this year, and 12. So it's still not where I want to be, but still it's 40% decrease, which means they're in the building that much more. With that data, I met with the BLT, my building leadership team, back in the summer and told them right away, all right, this is not good enough. We've got to do better. We need to come up with a plan. So what we did was, and to me it felt like, man, we're just having, I had over 450 office referrals. So as an instructional leader trying to be a support to my teachers, but then also having that time commitment that goes in with that, I had to be more effective. So talking with my BLT, we developed a new program that I'll kind of go into here. But to me, it felt like the building was just out of control. But really, it wasn't. We went through and kind of identified our students that were having the most difficulties. If they ended up being in a Tier 3, that means they were sent to the office 5+ times, or 6+ times. Tier 2 was between 2 and 5, and Tier 1 was 0 or 1. So if you can see, as you can see, 529 students had things figured out, we're rolling. We had a 23 in Tier 2.
Is that 529 different students or 529, a bunch of them are three-peats or something.
No, I'm sorry. That is 529 students that are in Tier 1 that were only sent to the office 0 or 1 time. So
Because
529
0 and
students.
1's a big difference. 0 means you didn't have to go to the office.
Correct, right. The way the state kind of broke it down was if 0 to 1 was a Tier 1. Our basic Tier 1, those are actually flipped here. That should be Tier 1 there. Our basic positive behavior systems that we use in school are working for those students. So basically what we do here is we have like our Tiger Paw system, which is if they're copying good, they can put their name on a piece of paper. We give out prizes, which Rumpke, I know Amanda left, but Rumpke helps us buy the bikes, t-shirts, bags. So that works for 529, most of our students. But it's not enough for everybody. So we have support groups that are created through our ALP teacher, Ms. Surkamp. But then we've also got this new program called the Taylor's Angels. And what we did, and this goes for our Tier 3 and Tier 2, we've got about 65 staff members. And what I wanted was a culture set up to where all of the staff is taking ownership of all of our students, and especially these ones that are struggling. So we paired every student with a staff member as kind of like a mentoring. We call them Taylor's Angels. So they check in, and here's kind of how the program runs. They check in twice a week. Prefer to do it to be on Monday and Friday, but it doesn't always work for the student schedule, the teacher schedule, staff member schedule. But basically, it's just it's a way to help. The student has an ear to talk to, but it also lets the staff members know. I mean, if Johnny's walking down the hall and everybody knows Johnny's been struggling, hey Johnny, how's your day going? Oh, it's going well. How'd you know my name? So that every time they walk by somebody, of those 41 kids that struggle, they don't regret coming to school or not like coming to school. They think, man, how does this person know who I am? But they have a name with a face, and they know somebody's going to be checking in with them on Friday. Hey, how was your week this week? How'd it go? And so that's kind of what we're looking for, is just having that conversation piece so that they know somebody at this building is going to look after me and know that they're going to ask me, how was my week? How did I do? Because sometimes that doesn't happen. And that's where we hope having them in school, knowing somebody cares about me, gives us a better chance to teach them when they're in the building. And so, again, with those three focuses, we hope to get our results back to where they were 2 years ago.
The last program, that just started this year.
It didn't actually. We just kind of got it rolling about 2 to 3 weeks ago.
So it'll take a little bit of time to see
It will.
how.
So the October data really hasn't given a full amount of time to show the office referral effect. But I'm hoping November everybody has made contact with their student, and hopefully now we get it rolling. We're going to have a tracking sheet for them so we know documented they are.
Gotcha.
So hopefully those three things will get back to the good things we do with Taylor Elementary.
I think that sounds like a great program. Sometimes kids that wind up in the office, they have something else going on in their life that kind of leads them to that behavior pattern, and it sounds like a good way to intervene them. I'd be curious to see how that works out.
You're exactly correct. There's a lot of things going on. You get in there, finally start figuring out what happened in the classroom. It's because of something else. It's not typically...
Yeah, 99% of it is, I'm sure.
Right.
So that's a great report. Anybody else have any comments?
I got a question.
Yes.
As you're tracking this data, you're showing like a certain grade level for a certain year. Are the cohorts doing well? So like people were in third grade this year, were in second grade last year, and first grade the year before. Are they? Do you find that cohorts either stay the same or improve over time, or if a class comes in we're testing really well in kindergarten, they tend to test well throughout the?
Well, it depends. Like I said before, we're very transient, so the numbers it's not always the same cohort. But I know Brenda Miller is my evaluator. We've kind of been looking through the data to see and checking the cohorts. They drop back a little bit, obviously, with the summer slide. But it was our third year with the MAP data. And we're starting to see, with the first 2 years, the first year was it was a mess because they just didn't really understand what they were doing. It was new to everybody. We were trying to figure it all out. Last year was okay. This year we had much better success at the beginning of the school year. So I think we even have better data to show how much progress are we taking. Plus it's better accurate data for the teachers. Because even though they're showing lower data at the beginning, the teachers aren't sure where to address the needs. But yeah, this year's current data is better at the beginning of the school year than last year's was. And the best part about it is it's more accurate, which is and that's what the whole MAP thing's about. It can give us an instructional level shows us exactly where to hit so that we can keep them moving up and close that achievement gap.
Is the third grade reading guarantee really helping that focus on the students who need it the most
Oh,
right there?
I mean, yeah, I mean, definitely. And the third grade teachers have always had that focus anyway, but it's now, and we're going to see what it looks like with the AIR assessment, but that any student who is not where they need to be according to the map gets a reading improvement plan. Parents sign it, teachers sign it, I sign it, so that everybody knows here are all the interventions that are going in to help this child get where they need to be. And so that's a big focus to where the third grade guarantee definitely makes a difference.
Great, well, thank you for your report.
Is that okay?
Really appreciate
Good
it.
to do Thanks.
Moving right along, employee organizations, is there anyone here from a certificated or licensed employee organization that would like to speak? And seeing no one, is there anyone here from a classified employee organization that would like to speak? I see no one. School-related organizations, is there anyone here that would like the opportunity to speak? I see no one. And community comments, I have two cards. The first is Matt Teetsort, who would like to speak about the Green Township tax increment financing. Somebody here to watch.
Hello.
Hi, Matt.
So the first question I have, I guess, is it's on the agenda for this evening. Is that for informational, or is that going to be an action item for the board?
Amy?
It's an action item.
Okay. And I guess because, so the attachment that's on the agenda is just a letter from Green Township, and then it references the 1994 tax increment plan. So the tax increment financing that was from 1994, the 30-year, going to, presently runs till the year 2024. So Green Township's looking to extend that an additional 15 years till 2039. From what I understand, that TIF that they have is pretty much Green Township wide for the most part. And so it's for future property increases, value increases, with the exception of the school district tax monies is exempt, correct? But it's refunded, or the Green Township pays the school district what they would have received.
Correct. We're held harmless.
Okay.
Correct.
So how is that decided, determined? And is that, and so it says here it's going to continue to stay the same. Is that, still correct? And
Yes, it's going to continue to stay the same as the current 1994 agreement. The district will continue to be held harmless, and Green Township reimburses the district the amount of tax revenue that we would have received from the county.
okay. And then that would just continue for the additional 15 years?
Yes.
Okay. So that includes all the properties along the, new developments along Cheviot Road, North Bend Road, that have increased in value, that are part of Northwest Local School District?
It'll increase with valuations, yes.
Right, okay. So, I guess that was my only questions. I was just looking for clarification on the TIF, because they're, very confusing little, items. And,
It has worked out well for our school district, because Green Township has kicked us back the amount of taxes that we would have lost in that. That does bring up an interesting question. I don't know that any of us would know the answer if Oak Hills is in the same situation as we are. So Green Township refunds to them also?
Yes. It was township-wide when Green Township did it. And now townships it's worked out very well for Green. A lot of townships that should have taken advantage of it when it was allowed didn't, and the law has since lapsed.
Right.
And now townships can't just make their whole township a TIF.
But they can, as long as they continue to extend it.
Right. Green Township was grandfathered.
Right, okay. So that answers one question. I haven't been able to figure out how they were able to do that. So they were at the time, back in 1994, but it's not something a township doesn't do now.
They cannot do that anymore.
Right,
So our vote tonight will be just serving whatever's in the best interest of the Northwest School District.
Right.
When we vote on that issue this evening.
That was just a question. I wasn't sure if, how clear it was going to be when it came up on the agenda later on. And that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
We have one other person that would like to speak, and that is Elaine Gauk. Would like to, her topic is information.
Yeah, here goes the Common Core. I know you brought it up a minute ago, legislative things. It's really got too many strings attached, and it hurts, I've talked to a lot of parents, and the parents are picking up the kids' homework because they don't understand it. We're going to keep Common Core, or if we get out of it, or what? I mean, we need to find some kind of presentation up here where people can hear ask questions of Common Core. People don't understand it, and kids will be learning one way, and parents can't help them. And it's very frustrating for the parents. And
That's a state level decision.
There's no way we can get around it.
For a district to opt out of Common Core, I haven't heard of that being done.
No, it started on the federal level. The state adopted it. It's not just something you would get out of.
Well, I mean, or could you have one of the meetings here explain it to people out there? I mean,
Explain our curriculum.
No, explain Common Core, how it affects our.
Well, that is our curriculum. The Common Core is how we adapt our curriculum to what we teach in our schools.
I understand that part, but how do the parents understand this? What Common Core really is?
Well, we have a lot of opportunities at the schools. One, Taylor just talked about when they bring the kids in and work on several things. You had the parent group that was up here with Cole Raynell, who has the reading night. You have Pleasant Run Elementary, who has their university night, I believe it's called. PRE University, and that's specifically what they do. They help the parents and show them what they need to do to help improve their students' education. So it is occurring throughout the district.
Okay, then also, are you going to bring back cursive writing, or you get rid of it yet? Cursive writing?
You
still teaching that?
Yes, some do.
Because some, we teaching or not teaching it?
I'll turn that over to Jenny. Just got to push it hard.
Cursive writing is still taught in all of our schools in some fashion. Back when we were in school, it was a main focus. We spent a lot of time. Our teachers just can't do that like they used to. Most of our students, when they get to even the testing portions of it, they're on the computer. They're typing their answers. We teach keyboarding. We haven't stopped teaching cursive writing, but we don't teach it to the extent that we've taught it before.
Because I've been grandparents, not just, I mean, I have grandkids who are all grown up already, but I got friends, they live in for the kids to do something, and they says, why do you get this done? I couldn't read what you were saying there. And it's very frustrating for people out there.
Well, what we try to resemble is the testing is all online. So they don't write anything for their test results that they get back. When they apply for jobs at McDonald's and Walmart, or they apply for college applications, it's all done online electronically. So we try to mirror that. Yet we also go back and we still teach the cursive part. You just can't spend as much time as you used to because of all the other.
The cursive is very important, communication.
If it was a state assessment that our district got graded on, I would agree 100%.
Okay, that helps. I'll be back up when we get to do the Common Core.
Thank you, Elaine. And we'll move on to our next item, which is a superintendent's item, Mr. Bowling.
Okay, this
11-1.
This is certificated licensed personnel retirements and resignations. You will find 6 acceptance of certificated test procedural resignations, 4 acceptance of extra duty resignations, 3 acceptance of event worker procedural resignations, and 10 acceptance of extra duty procedural resignations. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve their certificated licensed personnel retirements and resignations as listed.
So moved. Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Our next item is a classified personnel item, Mr. Bowling.
Yes, this is classified retirements and resignations. You will find 2 acceptance of classified resignations and 3 acceptance of classified substitute procedural resignations. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the classified retirements and resignations as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? I would like to add, as I do every week, This information's been posted since last Friday, and all the board members have had a chance to review it. With no other discussion, Chris, please call a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Our next item is a fiscal item.
Yes, this is a resolution authorizing issuance of school improvement unlimited tax general obligation bonds, Series 2015-2016. I'll turn this over to Amy.
This is to authorize the issuance of the bonds for our current levy that we just passed. And the reason the two different dates is the strategy to maximize taxpayer savings with lower interest rates and reduce costs by issuing $66 million in 2015 and the additional $10 million in the beginning of 2016.
The superintendent and treasurer recommends the Board of Education approve the resolution authorizing the issuance of school improvement unlimited tax general obligation bonds, Series 2015-2016, as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? I would sincerely like to thank the voters for putting us right here, right now to do this. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Our next item is vendor contracts. Mr. Bowling?
Yes, you will find vendor contracts listed. There are 6 vendor contracts for approval. The superintendent and treasurer recommend the Board of Education authorize their vendor contracts as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Fiscal item.
Yes, this is the authorization to file a modified tax budget for the 2016 fiscal year. Amy?
All the governmental entities are required to file a tax budget with the county auditor in January, except for as a school district, we are on fiscal year, July to June. So the modified tax budget allows us to mirror it more closer to our 5-year forecast versus what the local governments report.
The treasurer and superintendent recommend the Board of Education approve the item as listed.
So moved. Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Our next item.
Yes, the next item is authorizing the advance of tax monies from the Hamilton County, Ohio auditor. Amy?
The advances allow the county auditor to send the district advances and tax proceeds as they collect them instead of waiting till the very end when they reconcile the tax collection.
The treasurer recommends that the Board of Education approve the fiscal item as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call a vote. The motion carries 5-0, and our next item is another fiscal item.
Yes, this is a resolution to county auditor to levy collection of taxes 2015. Amy?
This is to authorize the county auditor to levy the taxes or to collect the taxes from our just recently passed levy.
The superintendent and treasurer recommend the Board of Education approve the resolution to county auditor to levy collection of taxes as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Another fiscal item.
Yes, the resolution approving the granting extension of a tax increment financing exemption with Green Township.
This is because the TIF is over 10 years, so they do require school board support and approval for them to extend the TIF. So this is just for your support and approval so they can go ahead with the extension.
The superintendent and treasurer recommend the Board of Education approve the resolution approving the granting/extension of a tax increment financing exemption with Green Township as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Just want to thank Green Township for back in '94 to have the foresight to do this. It certainly has helped our school district and continues to help the district. So appreciate it.
Very much so, and as we discussed just earlier, through this, we are held harmless for any of the tax increment financing arrangements that the township enters into. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call a vote. The motion carries 5-0. A general business item, Mr. Bowling.
Yes, this is a resolution to accept bus stops. By law, we have to do the approval of bus stops each year. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the bus stops as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? I did open up the list and read it. It is extensive. The buses stop many, many times. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call a vote. The motion carries 5-0. General business item, Mr. Bowling.
Yes, the next one is a resolution to declare students impractical to transport. This is this year's in lieu of transportation list. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the resolution to declare students impractical to transport as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call a vote. And,
I just want to explain my abstention vote. Honestly, I just know too many people that receive this, and while I personally, my family doesn't, it's just, people live a block away from me. So I just wanted to abstain, that's all.
All right, is there any other discussion? Hearing none, the vote carried, we had already discussed it. The vote did carry 4-0 to 1 abstention. So moving on to our next item is another general business item.
Yes, this is in regards to the building Camelot field turf project donations. Anything that is donated to schools in turn is donated to the district. So the attachment contains the list of donations that will go to the Northwest High School for their field turf. This is the required acceptance of the donations from Rumpke, UC Medical, Kroger's, and the Northwest Boosters. For the December board meeting, we will have a contract between the district and the Northwest High School Boosters for payment of the funds to complete the turf project at Northwest High School. Superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the donations for field turf at Northwest High School as listed.
Very excited. So moved.
Second.
I threw you guys off.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Did you have something to say, Pam?
I'm very excited. It was a great presentation, and just can't wait to see this continue to roll. And again, want to thank Rumpke, but not only Rumpke, the two women that were here, the parents, they work so hard. I know Dana Schoen is everywhere all the time doing everything, and just appreciate their dedication and their love of Northwest. It's a very exciting time for the entire district, but very exciting for Northwest High School.
Todd, when is this going to start the actual construction?
All right, Chris, chime in here if I'm wrong, but once we get to the December board meeting, we will have all the financials worked out, and then they were going to try to break ground in December, but they decided to back off on that because not knowing what the weather is, it could cause some surfacing issues, and you don't want to clean it off, and then it expands and it goes back. So we're looking around March. We're trying to tie it into the possibility of the track surface being done at the same time, but we know with the track surface we've got all summer if that's a possibility. So you just want it to cure, and it takes about 45 days to cure. There are actually potholes in that track right now. Yes.
Potholes in the track?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Was there any other discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call a vote. The motion carries 5-0. A certificated licensed personnel item, Mr. Bowling.
Yes, the next is certificated licensed personnel items. You will see 1 approval of change in status, 3 approval of certificated testers, 1 approval of tutors, 2 approval of home instructors, 6 approval of extra duty contracts, 3 approvals of athletic event workers, 2 approvals of volunteer coaches, and 10 resolutions to hire non-licensed coaches. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the certificated licensed personnel items as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, Dan, I would like to, I don't know if we would do it now or in the fall, I mean, we're talking $25 a game or something like that, but the new message center at Colerain High School raised several $1,000s. I can't get an exact number. I'm told between $4,000 and $7,000. And the gentleman who ran the board, we finally got it figured out into the season. We finally got the proportions and everything done, but I believe it would cost us $25. I just don't want to lose him because of how hard it was to get him trained. You're talking, I mean, the boosters with their advertising, they had 9 good advertisers, Kroger's and you saw him up there. But he's sitting up there not getting paid while the PA announcer and the scoreboard worker and everybody else are getting paid. And I ended up paying him. So I'm not going to be here forever. And I just would like to add him to that list. I don't know if anybody, I think it's a good return when you spend $150 and you get back $4,000 or $5,000. If he were to leave, there's nobody to operate it. And he lives close, he likes doing it, but you know, we need to train somebody else.
Well, we'd have to create a job description, we'd have to put a salary schedule with it. It's just not something we can create, but we can get Darren and the athletic department at Colerain to look into that and work with Pauletta and Jack and Stephanie for that job description.
Okay.
How much is, what's he was want to get paid, like $25?
I think it was $25 a game, Jim. We'd be talking $150 or so, or $125 plus a home game if there's a, you know, a tournament first round. But
now, will he be available like for the track meet that Colerain hosts in the spring? And
I told
like
him about that.
Competition and stuff
Yeah, he
like
did the
that?
band
Yeah.
thing. I told him about the invitational, and I think he's going to be available. He just lives over on Woodsong.
Oh, okay.
So he's close and he likes doing it. But boy, I'll tell you what, you know, it's. I guess it's because I'm not a computer type. I just, you know, when you throw a program out there, I just got to, you know, work with it for hours. And
Well, you've got some Butler Tech programs where the kids do computer design, and so it might be something that they could tie into a class also without paying someone, and it would be very beneficial to the student. And
yeah, maybe we could train, like have an apprentice program or something, because I'm sure there's going to be times. If I have to, I'll pay him again, but I already offered him the job for next year. So, I mean, when I'm paying, I can do that. But I know that the other folks are paid.
I'll have them look into it.
Yeah, we're not talking a budget breaker here, folks. And when I heard what the boosters made off of it, I was like, wow. So I think it's a good investment.
And I guess that would come back at the next meeting. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Our next item.
Next is classified personnel items. You will find 7 approval of initial appointments, 3 appointment of classified substitute at various rates, and 9 approvals of change in status. Superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the classified personnel items as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call a vote. The motion carries 5-0. The classified personnel item, Mr. Bowling?
Yes, this is the return of the job descriptions that we presented at the last board meeting. The changes are on them, and we are looking for your approval. The superintendent recommends approval of the job descriptions as listed.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call a vote.
Okay.
The motion carries 5-0. Our next item is curriculum and instruction.
Yes, this is the weighted grading scale addendum that was approved or was discussed at the last October 26th board meeting. Superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the weighted grading scale addendum as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call a vote. The Motion carries 5-0. Our next item is a student services item, Mr. Bowling.
Yes, this is an extended field trip request. The Colerain High School swim team will send 4 members to the Canton, Ohio pre-collegiate meet on December 18th and 19th to swim against potential state qualifiers. So in a way, they will use this to scout out their competition, see what kind of times they turn in, and see where they need to be by the time they get there. So the superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the Colerain High School extended field trip request as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call a vote. Motion carries 5-0. Our next item is a general business item, Mr. Bowling.
Yes, the next is a master plan facility update. So first of all, I'd like to thank the voters for getting out and supporting us, as you all have said, and I'm sure you will address at the end. But it's a pretty exciting time to be here at Northwest, to have the margin of victory we did, showed our support. But we also understand that in an election, there's a lot of no votes also. So we're trying to do a lot of things to show that we're fiscally responsible, and that's what I want to talk to you about tonight. We've had a lot that I've done in presenting out to the public. We've had questions of, why didn't you use OSFC funds? What about Colerain L and Colerain Middle? So what we started to look at as we went through this process is some of those discussions. So what happened is Amy attended a meeting in which Butler Tech had a presentation on how they were able to build the new bioscience building and not have additional funds raised through a bond levy to pay for it. When she went to this meeting, she met Kevin Maloff of Frost, Brown, and Todd, who had also been instrumental in the West Claremont combination of schools with Amelia and Glen Estee High School. What this allowed to occur was that they could build new schools without passing a bond levy and use several strategies in order to get there. So Amy, Chris McKee, and myself met with Kevin and some OFCC reps to talk about what are some possibilities for Northwest High School. Does it help us any now that we've passed a bond, our board has shown the commitment? What can we get from the state that might in turn help us to get to what we heard were the missing links? Like, how could you ignore Colerain Elementary? How could you ignore Colerain Middle? We did listen, so that's why we sat down at the table with these folks to see what we could do. We're going to look at 4 separate things. We obviously have the RFQ for the CMR out, and we're also going to look at a design-build model. While the CMR is an acceptable method of constructing schools, the use of a design-build model may afford the district some advantages. So some of the examples I want to talk to you about is because the design and construction aspect are merged under design-build, the potential cost associated with delays, defects, design issues are reduced because the district only has to deal with one party. Because 3 similar situated elementary schools are being built at the same time, the integration of design and construction improves the efficiency of the project and generally results in reduced costs and fewer delays. We've heard at our board meetings, several people talk to us, can you build the same plan on all 3 sites, because that's going to save you a lot of fees. So the other thing we talked to Kevin about was, well, what are some of these alternatives you've talked about? Like, how can we raise money and increase tax revenue? And that's where Kevin comes in. And I've got Kevin here. He's sitting out here in the audience, and he's going to chime in at the end as I try to explain things carefully. School districts have historically built schools in commercial business districts. I know some of you have asked, why are we building on certain sites? Could we move these to other sites? However, with recent funding issues, building schools on land that is commercially rich prevents the district from receiving additional taxes from potential commercial developments. So one of the suggestions is that the district explore whether the locations for the schools are appropriate, or given this new approach, should be built in different areas so that the district can sell/lease the commercial property to a developer to raise additional funds for capital improvements and generate long-term additional tax revenue that did not previously exist. So a way to raise money without going back to the taxpayers for more bonds. And depending on what we do with the properties at Beavis, Welch, PRE, and possibly Houston, we could look at ground leasing or selling land, which would pay for the remaining monies to build a new Colerain K-8 campus and raise additional tax revenue for the district. So what we decided to do, and how could we build a new K-8? And then Todd, well, why didn't you guys look at this before you went out with a bond levy? Well, we did. We met with OFCC about a year ago. We were told then at the time we were 2 to 3 years away. Our percentage that we would get is 17%, and we were told that if you go with OFCC, they have a strict set of guidelines. So when we met with the OFCC folks, we knew that it was approximately $37.6 million to build a K through 8 building. When we met with them, they told us our ranking has changed. We are now qualifying for 22%. We are currently planning on spending $67 million on 3 new buildings. We currently plan on spending $7 to $9 million on Colerain L and Colerain Middle renovations. If we qualify the three elementary schools under OFCC's ELP program, which is Expedited Local Partnership Program, we receive a $15.4 million credit. So that's free money from the state for us just sitting there. If we construct a new combined Colerain K through 8 for an estimated $37 million, rather than renovating it, we receive an OFCC credit of $8.2 million. So when you add them all together, so if you take the $9 million we were going to use for renovations, the OFCC credits of 15.4 and the 18.2, or the 8.2, I'm sorry, we would be about $5 million short of building a new K through 8 building. If we go back to the property discussion where you look at alternative school sites and we can raise some land lease monies, we could possibly build a new K through 8 building and the district make money without going to the taxpayers for a bond. So we kind of have to look at this, and it's kind of something I had to bring to your attention because I think it's very important that we start to understand that there are some key things that we've all been worried about. One, we didn't want to go with OFCC because they had such strict guidelines that you couldn't do. Well, when we talk to them, it's a 50-50 partnership. There are some guidelines you have to meet. So when we build these 3 new elementary schools, we do have to follow their guidelines. But we have to agree with them. If we don't agree with them, we just back out. But I don't think my recommendation can be to leave $32 million sitting at the state that we don't look to try to create another new building basically free if we can rearrange our properties and do a land lease purchase. To me, it was a no-brainer that I present it to you. So how many days will this take to find out? Well, I talked to the state today. Mr. Roll's coming down on the 30th. He's going to meet in my office. It'll probably be Chris, Dick, Amy, and myself, and we will have the conversation on where are we and where we go. So I said over the phone, I said, how far away are we? He goes, you're within a year. He goes, you've moved up to 22%, you're probably even more money. So he's going to come down, and all we're going to do is fill out the ELP application, which we can go online and get, and we start the application process. It'll take about 45 days, see where we are, but it's not going to delay what we're going to do with the 3 new buildings. We're still going to plan on starting, getting the committees formed in January, February, March. I would be guessing on groundbreaking because I know all our principals have gotten a call. I've gotten some emails. Chris has. I don't know. Kevin, you've been through this process before. June, July, maybe for the groundbreaking. Anything you want to add to what I've explained to him? And again, this is Kevin Maloff. And if you could come up to the speaker, that'd be great.
As an attorney, believe it or not, I don't have much to say. So, groundbreaking, it really just depends on the process because you're working internally with your committees, your teams, your administration, the principals, the staff. In parallel, depending if you do design build or see them at risk, you're working with that team as they go through the process. So really there are a lot of variables, but normally what I tell clients, you determine as soon as you can when you want to break ground, and you impose that on the design builder or the CM at risk and let them determine when they can do it and how to price it into their model.
And so our taxpayers don't get nervous. We're still opening August 2018. None of that has changed. We're just trying to be fiscally responsible because all of you have preached that to me consistently. That is very important to you. So Amy came up with this idea all on her own, and then she passed it on to me. No, I'm just kidding. But no, she listened well to what Kevin had to say, and then when Amy, Chris, and myself started listening, we kind of couldn't pass up on it through meetings in Columbus and then meetings this week. So is there anything else I forgot about the presentation you think is key for the board?
I don't think so. I take the blame for after you've planned everything, just throwing it all up in the air. But my background is representing schools and townships and cities. Is you're limited in terms of resources and you're limited in terms of funds. And for the record, I don't represent the OFCC, so my suggestion to go back and look at this isn't because I partner with them. In fact, a majority of my projects are not OFCC funded. But in situations where you have limited funds, limited resources, and you're going to the taxpayers and you're saying we want to build new schools, but we've got a whole bunch of other schools that we don't have the money to renovate, you start, you've dealt with and you know your constituents, well, why aren't you renovating our school? Or why aren't you renovating this? Why are we doing this? So my goal was to come in and, I sat down, we had several meetings. I brought some resources in from the OFCC to just talk about and explore what is possible. I don't want to leave anything on the table, and that's where we talked, and I said, if you're putting $6 to $9, $10 million into renovation projects for the middle and elementary school coring, and you can build it for 35, and I can help you get X amount from the OFCC, I don't want any of you going back to the taxpayer and saying, oh, by the way, we threw $10 million at renovation, and we could have built a whole new combined school for $2, $3, $4 million. So my goal is not to stir things or change things, but at least sit down and help you as a team decide, what are alternatives? What are different ways you can do things? Are there better ways to do things? And if we decide this is as good as it gets, that's fine. But at least I want to give you guys an opportunity to look at some alternative methods and see where it goes. And for the record, I was not the architect on West Claremont. We represent Union Township that helped do the entire process with TIF financing. Tom Fernandez, who you met, who is an architect, is the architect of the West Claremont project. And so again, those are the type of resources. Some of these are tried and true, and let's build on what's working. Any other questions?
So your meeting is November 30th on that?
With Mr. Rule from the state, yes.
And it wouldn't be me, but if a couple of the other board members wanted to attend that, as long
Oh,
as it
yes.
wasn't a majority.
No problem.
Maybe,
Last time we met, it
two
was
of the other
just us,
board
but-
members would like to
Yes.
sit in on that, because it's obviously going to be a big decision for the next
I'll send out
board.
an invite.
So, great. Well, thank you for your presentation. I'm somewhat familiar with that project. I've driven past it. I was out there the day they were putting up the silt fence around the perimeter of the property. How's it proceeding?
Well, which one? The
West Claremont.
West Claremont? I mean, it's moving forward. It's still in the infancy stage, but what it's doing, it's generating a lot of buzz, because the whole idea of old 30, 40-year-old schools, a school district like West Claremont, like couldn't pass a levy for 7 years. Parents were getting agitated, and they didn't want to see any further cuts. And suddenly, a township says, hey, we've got land, you can combine this and this, and that Glenesky High School, which is a commercially rich, valuable piece of property,
Right.
We've got developers that want that, and you've never been able to TIF it. Now you're going to generate tax revenue on land that was never taxed. So suddenly, there are more opportunities, and hopefully that's what I can do for you.
And it is something, and that's why I think a couple of the next board members ought to be there. One of the things we discussed, prior to November 3rd was, we don't really want to get involved with OSFC because we don't want to have our hands tied by them, and that's why I think a couple of you ought to consider going, just to make sure the benefits don't outweigh the hand tying.
Well, and just to be clear, what I suggested is we explore all of these options, make sure we don't leave anything on the table.
It's a good conversation to have.
Yeah. If we decide to go ahead and pursue a master plan, pursue ELP, and qualify the 3 schools, as you go through the process, because the school process, the 3 schools are already in process, you're not subject to the same oversight of the OFCC that you would if you started with what we call a CFAP. So you're able to continue
So this won't affect our 3 schools that we're going to build?
That's right.
Okay.
We're going to make sure they're, to the extent you need to comply in order to receive funds, we're going to look at that. And if they impose too many obligations on you that will drastically change what you want, then we can walk. But if you can qualify, and then we get to the point that we can build a combined Colerain Elementary and Middle, At that point, we're going to revisit with the OFCC,
Sure.
look at what they're going to require on you, and if again, if the requirements are too strict, then we can just walk away from that.
Right.
So what I don't want is to obligate you to do anything until you've had an opportunity to
Great. I think
vet
it's
the
a
entire
wonderful
process.
conversation. As we all know, nothing comes from the state that doesn't have a little string tied to it. So
Yep.
we want to really watch out for that. Well, great. Thank you for the presentation. And we'll look forward to hearing more. Curriculum and instruction, Mr. Bowling.
We saved the best for last. You know, we've talked about some great things tonight. We're going to build new schools. We're going to get turf at Northwest. We've had some academic presentations, but the bottom line is, as we talked when we were trying to get the levy passed, we want families to move into our district. New buildings are going to help with that, but improved academics will make that happen for sure. So our curriculum department is going to tie together for you what we are doing academically in this district to make a difference, how we're using data. And so it'll be Brenda Miller, Daryl, and Jenny.
Considering it is 8:40, we will try to be brief, but we do have quite a lot to try to bring you into the loop on. We do constitute 3/4 of the curriculum team. Heidi Stickney is our other member who will be up here presenting on other topics to you later on. We want to spend a few minutes talking about some things that you've already heard, and we appreciate Trey Richmond kind of giving us a leeway into tonight because he talked a lot about MAP and MPG. And we're going to spend some time talking about that because all the principles that you have heard so far and a lot of the ones you're going to hear the rest of the school year are going to be talking about MAP and MPG, and we want to make sure that everyone understands exactly what they're talking about when they use those terms. So this will hopefully help move us forward in that discussion. When we talk about MAP and MPG, we're talking about an online assessment that is from NWEA. These assessments are aligned to Ohio's learning standards. So they're completely aligned to the curriculum that we are teaching in our classrooms. A couple of things to point out about these MAP assessments, and we'll get into a little bit more detail about what that actually means in a moment. But there's this thing called RIT scores. This scale allows us to look at achievement and growth. Trey, Mr. Richmond, talked about that earlier in his presentation about how he's able to use those scores to look at his students in terms of how they're doing from an achievement standpoint as well as a growth standpoint. So these scores allow us to have those conversations, and because they are nationally normed scores, they allow us to have that conversation comfortably within the context of nationally normed scores. This does apply for students in grades K through 8 in both reading and math. And then the other thing to know about these is that they are computer-based assessments. In addition to being computer-based, they're adaptive. What adaptive means is as students are answering questions, if they answer a question correctly, the computer will automatically give them a more difficult question, and if they answer it incorrectly, it gives them an easier question. So it adapts to the way they answer the question to try to get and narrow into where the student truly falls in a national norm sample. We give the MAP assessment in those grade levels and content areas 3 times a year, once in the fall, once in the winter, and once in the spring. I talked a little bit about how each student is presented with items at his or her level, and it adjusts accordingly to them. The MAP assessment is a really robust bank of questions that are all aligned to what we call a RIT score, which is the nationally normed standard and benchmark for specific grade levels at specific times of the year. So there's a large sample set of questions that students have. So as students are taking it, they're getting basically a personalized assessment through this system. As students take this, the system is designed to continue to give them these questions until it gets to a point where they've gotten about half of them right and half of them wrong, so it can narrow in on where that student comfortably is and where the system can truly comfortably say they are in terms of their RIT range. This gives students and teachers immediate feedback of where kids are. As soon as they're done with the assessment, those scores and that data is available to our teachers. So there's a lot of data immediately at their fingertips before the kids even get off the bus that day. We have a lot of metrics that system has embedded in it, so we can look and see that the scores are valid, and if there are different factors that influence a child, we can look and see if those scores are invalid and retest to make sure that we're dealing with the most accurate information for every child that we are dealing with. A couple of things just to know from a background. These are some vocabulary. A scale is an equal interval scale, and basically we're looking at, from a RIT scale, that this, and Brenda's going to go into more detail about it, but just the general concept is there's a nationally normed scale that basically says at each grade level and each administration, each term, fall, winter, and spring, there's a range that is acceptable or applicable for that student from a nationally normed perspective. The RIT score is the student score that we can compare to that range. Mr. Richmond talked a little bit about these growth, conditional and projected. Projected growth is basically looking at where the student started and where they are projected to be. Where they are projected to be will keep them at that 50th percentile, which basically means that I'm making growth. I'm making a year's worth of growth. Mr. Richmond mentioned a lot about closing gaps. If students make their projected growth, we've not closed the gap, but we've maintained it. They've made growth, but they've not made enough growth to start closing a gap, but we've made appropriate growth. Conditional growth basically says that outside of the national norm, if you just look at a smaller group that is similar in terms of demographics and where that student started, and you narrow it down into a more comparable group, this is a more homogeneous group that says that this kid starts about here, based on other kids like that that start in that place, how do you do in terms of growth? That's how Mr. Richmond was able to say, conditionally, we grew a lot, but our national norms were still behind because we're doing that catch-up. Within this system, we have something called a learning continuum. So as these students take these assessments and are given a RIT score, there's something called a learning continuum, which is basically a roadmap that says at this grade level, if a student scores this RIT, this score, this number, here's the content that they've basically mastered up to this point. And that continuum shows the teacher what the next set of content is that child is ready to learn. So it gives them a roadmap of how to design their instruction, individualize their instruction based on how the students are scoring. Math has an elementary, a K2 component called MPG. It's a little bit different than the 3 through 8, but from a K2 perspective, the MPG has audio components embedded. So it reads the test to the students. They still get a RIT score that is comparable to the MAP. We use those scores to help determine students' on-track status for the third grade reading guarantee. So we're able to look at those RIT scores and be able to tell, is a student on track to meet the requirements of the third grade reading guarantee? Mr. Richmond noted earlier that students who are not on track, they start interventions on those students to help bring them back up on track. Another thing that you may have heard as we've moved forward, when students move from that MPG at the second grade level to the MAP at the third grade level, the audio goes away. And we've had some conversations about, does that lack of audio support impact student achievement? If you look at what we've been able to ascertain from our data, when students move from second to third grade and go from MAP to, or MPG to MAP, we see about a 9 RIT point decrease in math, but only a 2-point decrease in reading. So as they lose that audio, we're not seeing a significant slide because they're losing the audio component of that. In Northwest, we monitor student achievement and growth based on those scores. Our students have individual goal setting based on those, and our buildings are looking at those scores from a building perspective, like Mr. Richmond said, to measure growth and achievement at the building level. So we're monitoring buildings and we're monitoring students individually with these. We can use these scores. They're an identified gifted, they're a qualifier for identification for gifted. And so we can actually use these scores to identify gifted students within the district. And because we use this so prolifically in our district, you will see that the MAP and MPG scores in multiple ways do impact teacher evaluation and student growth measures that we use in the teacher evaluation process. So MAP and MPG are embedded in a lot of different ways in our school district to support student learning, achievement, and growth across the board. And I'm going to pass the numbers off to Brenda.
So anytime we use an assessment like the MAP, we want to make sure that it is actually providing us with information that is reliable and valid. In an earlier board meeting, Michael, I believe you asked about the relationship or the correlation between MAP and the Ohio State assessments.
Correct.
So NWEA has published a linking study that looks at the relationship between those two assessments. The chart you see up here is showing what that correlation is. And correlation is a statistical term that simply means that we want to see a connection between two variables, or assessments in this case. As one score goes up, we want to see that the other score also goes up so that we can say with confidence, as students increase their MAP scores, they also will do better on our state assessments. You can see that in the state of Ohio, that correlation is pretty strong for both reading and math. If that were a perfect relationship where in every instance the MAP score went up and the OAA score went up, that would be a correlation of 1.0. And so you see here correlations ranging from high 0.7s into even above 0.8. So we feel pretty confident from the linking study that they've done across the state of Ohio that there's a strong relationship there, which is why we feel confident about using this assessment in so many different ways in the Northwest Local School District. I can also tell you that we've been looking at this. This is our third year using the assessment. We've been looking at this data and the correlation specifically in our district. And we have found that actually the correlation is even stronger in the Northwest Local School District. It exceeds 0.8 in almost every school, at almost every grade level, and for both reading and math. So we feel pretty confident that we're using a strong assessment here that can tell us a lot about student achievement and growth. You've heard a lot of conversation both in Mr. Richmond's presentation as well as in Mr. Yater's comments regarding this RIT scale. And basically what this scale is telling us, students typically come into kindergarten scoring in the low 100s on the RIT scale. Somewhere around 137.5 is what you see there for kindergarten is the fall average across the country. And they continue to grow on that RIT scale to the point where by 8th grade the average fall score is 217.2. So we're looking at a lot of growth happening for students. You can see that the jump in average score from fall of kinder to fall of first grade is over 20 points on that RIT scale. Continues to be almost 15 points from first to second. Big jump again second to third. And then we start to see that those jumps slow down a little bit because the amount of new information and skills that students need to acquire changes and it gets deeper rather than absolutely introduction of new content. So that arrow that you see there represents for 15-16 where the state has set the bar with the MAP assessments for the third grade reading guarantee. This year the criteria for the third grade reading guarantee is that a student must score a 186 on the MAP assessment in the third grade in order to move on to the fourth grade. That's changed each year since that's been in place, but again the MAP assessment is an approved way of looking at and meeting that third grade reading guarantee. We also look at the confidence that we have in this assessment as predicting student performance on the state assessments. And so that number that's there in yellow or green is 200. We know that when third graders can read at a 200 or better on the RIT scale, they have at least a 95% chance of scoring proficient on our state assessment. So that's a really high rate of confidence that we have. This is the same chart for math. You can see that many of the same patterns hold true. That growth that needs to happen in those early years is absolutely critical. From kindergarten to first grade, that's a very big jump that students need to make, and continuing first to second, second to third, all the way on up the scale. One of the things that's wonderful about this scale is that it is stable and it is consistent so that we can compare achievement and growth over time. We don't have that right now with our state assessments. Daryl mentioned that, we get this data right away, instantly after the student takes the assessment, versus us waiting until the middle of the next year for our results when we're kind of in autopsy mode versus being able to be very responsive and responding to what we see our students doing at that moment. So that's what we like about the assessment. This is a lot of numbers. It's almost 9 o'clock. We don't need to spend a ton of time on this. What I wanted you to see here, though, is that since we have transitioned to new core-based assessments in Ohio, the bar continues to jump, and it jumps significantly. We've all heard that about the rigor of the new assessments, but here you see it in numbers. NWEA has conducted some initial linking studies with states that were early adopters of core-based assessments, New York, Illinois, Kentucky. They looked at the results there and what students needed to achieve on these MAP assessments in order to continue to be proficient. And so, whereas in third grade, this is math data, but in third grade, student needed to be at about the 27th percentile to score proficient on the OAA. That looks like the 57th percentile on these new core-based assessments. You can see that that's about a 30 percentile jump for all of the grades in math, and the pattern is very similar in reading. We named our presentation High Expectations and Accountability. We have to keep pushing. Everybody's stressed. It's a lot of work, but we have to keep pushing in order to make our students competitive and ready for these new state assessments. NWEA is also, yes, sir.
Go back to that last slide. It looks like they don't actually expect you to learn anything in 6th grade math between grade 5 and on the OAA.
In terms of the percentile?
No, the
or
215.
The score?
The 215.
Yeah, that was what the link was, just looking at a 400 on the OAA. Both at, you're right, at both 5th and 6th grade, that correlated to a 215. One of the things that's been challenging with the state assessments is that the assessments differ from grade to grade, from year to year, and so it makes it hard for teachers to know exactly what that requirement is and for us to compare growth from year to year, whereas with a stable scale, we have much more capacity to do that. So NWA is also looking at links between their MAP assessments and high-stakes assessments for college readiness. We know that one of the new pathways to graduation is the ACT, as well as most recently we heard that it's also going to be the SAT. But NWA has published a study looking at what those college readiness remediation-free scores look like. For reading, that readiness or remediation-free score is a 21 on the ACT. That correlates to the 77th national percentile on the MAP assessment. For Math 22, that correlates to the 83rd national percentile. Statistically, thinking about that, that's not very many students who are at that level when you just look at percentiles in general. In our district, you can see, looking at our 14 to 15 ACT scores, our averages, we've got 47.7% of our students who scored remediation free in reading last year, 39.8% in math across our 2 high schools. We know that this sample was not representative of all students in our district. Not everybody took the ACT. With that being a pathway to graduation, we anticipate many more students taking that assessment, and therefore we expect that we'll see these scores go down because they'll be representative of our entire population. We also talked about growth, and one of the things we love about this assessment is the ability to look at growth. We can't necessarily control what level a student comes to kindergarten at in terms of achievement, but we can control what we do with them while they're here. If they come to us in the 3rd grade, they come to us where they are, and we accept them with open arms and look to push them as far as we can. But growth is really a key for us, and we've been speaking that message to our teachers for the last 2 years, and probably before that when I got here. We know that 52% of our students met the projected growth. Remember, projected growth is average growth, meaning that we just keep them right where they're at in math. 54% in reading. Those are the district averages. You have heard several principals already talking about their percentages being lower or higher than that, but that's where we are at K-8 as of last year. Many of our buildings have set building goals around growth with the MAP assessments, increasing those percentages of students meeting the projected growth target for this year. A couple more slides. You've heard about conditional growth percentile. Again, this is how did our growth compare to other grade levels across the country. in terms of where we started, districts and schools that started about where we did. If this were typical growth, that our growth was average compared to others like us, it would be the 50th national percentile. You can see we have some celebrations, places where growth last year exceeded that 50th percentile, meaning that we made more growth than those who started where we did. We also have some places where that doesn't look like that. One of the ones that jumps out to me, and probably you as well, is kindergarten. We're very hopeful and excited with this bond levy passing and being able to offer full-day kindergarten, that we can do some really special things with those extra minutes in our curriculum so that we can increase the growth that our students are making in those early years when it's so critical. This is the same chart for math looking at conditional growth. Again, you can see Mr. Rishman shared with you the second grade numbers for his building, for Taylor Elementary. The conditional growth for our second graders across the district was at the 92nd percentile. That doesn't mean they're achieving an average at the 92nd percentile, but it means their growth relative to other districts was very, very strong. Finally, we have been really looking at our subgroups in the district. We know that that's an important part of our accountability measures to the community and how we're performing with different groups of students. One of the groups we look at a lot is our students with disabilities. And I share this slide with you just to simply say that here's the reason we have to focus on achievement and growth. Our kids, our students with disabilities, when you look at achievement, it can be very discouraging because they may stay in the first and second percentiles. But we have to focus on how far we can move them. And that's very difficult when you're at the first percentile in achievement, but we can move them, and we need to move them. And so many of our buildings have elected to focus on this subgroup as well as others to really help close that gap. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Jenny.
She said finally, but she didn't mean it. But we are rounding third and heading for home here. During the 2014-15 school year and into this year, our curriculum department has had some goals surrounding our students and our teachers. And one of those goals, well, two of those goals, is that we want to improve access to data for our teachers and students, and we want to improve their data literacy. So we were able, with the board's help, to purchase a program called Data Map last year. We actually used the final year of our Race to the Top to fund that, and we're going to be able to continue to fund that. The data map system is connected to our student system, and it allows us to import all of the data for students and really create a data tracking system for our students. Our teachers and our administrators and our secretaries can, at a click of a button, get all of the data on a student for the past probably 3 to 4 years that we've imported into that system. It's a wonderful tool for them. And it's really allowing them to not have to call us every time they want to know something about a child. They don't have to go into 4 systems and have 4 passwords and 4 usernames to get into that. It's all on a roadmap for that child. It allows teachers and school leaders to monitor trends. They can put in a different year and go back and look and see how their students did last year. Was my instruction as a teacher, did it work? Did what I do work for my students last year? Students and families, it's easy for us to get information to our students and families so that they can track achievement. The teachers are able to do goal sheets for the students and have easy access to that data. Another very interesting piece that can happen is we can triangulate data. We can look at the correlations between the assessments so that we can really have greater precision in how we're making our decisions. If we see a child that was low on the map, we can look at where they were on an OAA and see, is this a true test score for that child? Is this a pattern? Are the trends looking like this? Are trends going up? Are they going down? It just allows us a better access to that data. One of the things that's also happening with this is that we're trying to change the conversations around data. All of our teachers, most of our teachers in the district are responsible for creating something called a student learning objective, or an SLO. The SLO process is a piece of their evaluation. It's whether or not their students made appropriate growth, and they get graded on that. Just to give you a quick overview of that what the teachers have to do is they have to choose an assessment, that is representative of the interval of instruction that they're choosing. They have to give the assessment to a group of students that's representative of their schedule, their teaching schedule. They have to analyze the data, look at trends based on that assessment. They have to look at the baseline data and analyze the students' strengths and weaknesses. All right? They have to desegregate their data by subgroup, looking at how did the students with disabilities do? How did our students that are in poverty do? Our educationally disadvantaged students do? Then they have to prioritize the standards and learning goals for their students during that interval and propose growth targets for their students. So for instance, if I'm using MAP, which many of our teachers are using MAP as the assessment, the MAP system will give them a projected growth. That was a vocabulary word from before. Projected growth. That if I want that student to make a year's growth, they need to gain 7 RIT points. Okay? Another student may have to gain 8 RIT points. Right? So the teachers have to look at that, and then they have to set targets for their students. When we look at the SLOs, we have a committee that reviews them to say, yes, we're going to approve this, or no, we're not. We look at 3 things. Are the goals that they set for their students rigorous, yet realistic, based on the data that they've given us? Do they require all students to grow? Right? And finally, and the most important one we believe for our district, do they make an attempt to close the existing achievement gaps? Now, if we go back to what we just learned from Brenda and Daryl, if we set those goals at the projected growth, are we going to close any achievement gaps? No, we're going to maintain those. So in these SLOs, we're looking for teachers to choose students or pick groups of students who are going to make more than the projected growth. We call that catch-up growth. All right? All right. So what I want to share with you is how we know that we're increasing data access and data literacy for our teachers. Some proof. Right? This is an example of a sample baseline and trend data from an SLO that was approved last year from one of our teachers. Right? This is the entire piece that she typed in. And it was approved because really this is all we had to give her. All right? So she said that her students need to gain between 4 and 6 points. The projected RIT scores for her students were from 162 to 217. And then she analyzed it very briefly. This is the same teacher this year. This is her trend data. Because of the access that we gave her, and because of the professional development that we gave her on using data, this is what she was able to write. And I'm not going to read that to you because it is past 9 o'clock. All right? But it just kind of gives you an idea of where our teachers are moving. All right? That's just the trend data. This is her baseline data. So she went from that to that in 1 year. All right? So we're pretty proud of that. We're proud of that teacher. And she's representative of one teacher. I can tell stories all night long, and I won't, about teachers, and I worked with the health and PE teachers and then the preschool teachers. Health teachers who were able to have conversations with me about, the average growth for my students was, 16 points on this PE or health assessment, and it's just not good enough. It's just not good enough. I don't think any of my students should be below this when they come out, so I'm going to set my growth targets higher than I did last year. Great conversations that are happening all over the district about data. The next piece is just kind of an example too. Another thing that once they set their growth targets for their students, they have to give a rationale for it. Right? This is an example of a MAP one, and not only did this teacher, take the growth, they talked about how they're going to increase it for a certain range of students. Right? And this is an example from an AP and a College Credit Plus class. And the reason this one's up there is because on here you can see that this teacher researched where those students needed to be consistent with the average results for students who were at the University of Cincinnati. Right? And actually was able to set those growth targets to get those students in the same range as students at the University of Cincinnati because they're getting college credit for this class. All right, so we're pretty proud of that teacher also, and proud of the growth that that teacher has made this year. All right, so in conclusion, and I mean it this time, all right, some keys to the success of getting our teachers to use this data for their SLOs. And this is all, the success keys here are related to the SLOs and using that data. First of all, we had to give clarity to our expectations. We had to be very clear with our teachers about what we expected from them when they were doing this. We had to be consistent in our communication. We have 7, 10, 15 people looking at these SLOs. We need to make sure that all of us were giving the same kind of communication to our teachers about what we expected. That is not an easy thing to do. The data map system helped us with a lot of this because there's a system of doing the SLOs that allows us to give constant feedback back and forth. All right? Goal setting for staff and students. We're requiring that for everyone. All right? We're engaging parents and families in the monitoring of student progress. That's something that we as evaluators, all three of us evaluate all of the elementary, middle, and high school principals as a team. We do that. We're expecting them to be doing that. We're giving ongoing support with data and assessment literacy. Right? If you don't know how to do it, we're begging you to call us. Please call us and ask. We've been out to the buildings. We've met with teachers. We invite them in. Let's talk about this so that we can help you. We're giving very specific feedback in our SLO process. We're using it as a continuous improvement planning cycle. We're looking at what we're doing well, how we can get better, consistently looking at what we can do better. We're going to reflect on the process. At the end of the year last year, we did a kind of a reflection on the process. We used all of that data that we had during that reflection to make our process better this year. We're going to do it again and see where we can make it better. We give feedback opportunities for all of our participants. And finally, and most importantly, we are keeping up the high expectations. I know that we have teachers that are tired of getting their SLO back with that little thing on it that says, revision required. Some of them have gotten their SLOs back 4 and 5 times. We're not judging them for that. We're not punishing them for that. We're teaching them. And we're saying, nope, we don't think that's a growth. That growth target's not going to get our district where we need to be. So this will not be the last presentation that we give on data. We will continue. We are just now getting back our state data from last year. And we don't want to present that to the board until we have it cleaned up and we know exactly what we're talking about. Things change every day. So we want to make sure that we have that. But this is just the beginning. We'll probably do quarterly presentations on the data. Okay? Yeah, just not, hopefully not at 9 o'clock anytime. Any questions?
I think that's a fine report, and the part about engaging parents goes back to the earlier presentation with some of the young grades reading issues. Parents need to be engaged along the whole path here, and
absolutely.
I think that's one of the main keys to improving student outcomes. So, any other comments? Well, thank you very much for the presentation. I think it's we'll go on to our next item, community communications. Is there anyone in the audience who has a question specific to something that was discussed this evening? Seeing no questions, we'll go ahead and move on to board items. Mr. Detzel.
Dan, I just want to thank the community for passing our levy.
Get your microphone,
Jim.
Jim.
Awesome. And with the news that Todd has brought here with possibly Colerain L and Colerain Middle, that's awesome news for our district and our community. And I just wanted to thank all the voters who voted for me and re-elected me back to the board for 4 more years.
Thank you, Jim. Chris, did you have any comments?
Yeah, Dan. First of all, congratulations, Mr. Detzel. Jim, you're a vote machine. You and Pam. Also want to thank the community. I'm used to levies passing by 18 votes, not 18%. And I think part of the thing, and it's going to dovetail into just a thing for your consideration, at least my letters to the editor talked about new schools equal better property values. And I'm a little bit concerned, and I've talked to Dick tonight about it, that 2 of the 3 schools are going to be hidden. If you had a house and you wanted to raise a property value and you're putting a new fancy porch on it, you wouldn't put it around back where nobody could see it. You know, you'd put it out there in the front. And my submission for consideration to the board and everybody else who's going to ultimately make this decision is that we don't bury one school. I know there's land issues, but if we did a 3-story, we might be able to move the building we were going to put at Struble, which is about as secluded as you can get. And I know that from experience as a high school student. That was our favorite place to go.
Okay, I read what you said earlier, so stop right there.
All right, Dan, I'm not going to give you the colorful details, but the point is, it's very, very hidden. Nobody's going to know it's back there. But on the other hand, you've got the administrative office here. You've got land down here. If we did a 3-story, what a crown jewel for the district to put it right in the center. And Pam couldn't, you back, you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Putting it right in the center of the district, people might argue it's too close to Banning Road. Well, Mumford Heights Elementary School's 25 feet from West Fork Road. And what they did is they made a little bit of a moat and kind of keep it safe, and it's just something to consider. I don't see the advantage of building these new schools and having them hidden. Here, this would be right dead center, and I think it would really raise awareness, and having it with the administrative office. That's just my opinion. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. And it's something for us to look at, and maybe Dick. And I've sort of walked it off, and if we put Mumford Heights School, I walk my dog at all the schools, and the Mumford Heights School would fit in that field with some space without any real problem. Because remember, there's about 80 feet of parking lot there too. So that's all I have to say, Dan.
Okay. Pam, did you have any board member comments?
I'm just, of course, ecstatic about the levy. It was a long, 14-hour this year, 15-hour day, but it was sure nice to interact with people, and the majority of them being so positive about the levy. So I think we're in a great place, and just can't wait to see this keep rolling. And also would like to wish the Colerain Cardinal football team good luck. Way to go, beat St. X, and now let's go and get Elder on Saturday. Thanks.
All right, and Michael?
Yes, I would just like to add my 2 cents on passing the levy. Thank you to all the voters out there. It passed in Colerain Township, it passed in Green Township, it passed in Springfield Township, and there's just the widespread support, the margin of victory, the margin of affirmation for our district, and just the fact that it really did well all across our district was very gratifying to see. When I went door to door, got very positive feedback. A lot of, the number one question was, so how does lower our taxes? And explaining that we were letting the one levy expire was very helpful. Even got some calls from people on election day about that. And then one concern I have is that there were, among the snags with the Board of Elections that made the news with the check-in system, a couple people had contacted me about, they live kind of on the edge of the district, and they were getting ballots for Oak Hills and not, and I have their addresses so we can follow up with the Board of Elections. And one guy was able to talk him into it. He brought up his tax data on the auditor's website on his phone, and he was able to convince him that he does actually live in the district. Another person already voted before raising the issue with me. So, it's borderline parcels, but we definitely need to work with the Board of Elections on that, and I can get the information. And then, I guess that's obviously go Cardinals. That would be the other thing to bring up here, and certainly wish the football team well against Elder this weekend.
Thank you, Michael. Wow, what a great thing. I know that over the last 2 years that the board went through some turbulent times last year, and we made some changes. I always thought that, there's a group that's always going to support a tax issue and a group that's always going to be against it. It's that group in the middle that you need to sway to your way of thinking. And some of those changes we made, there was a lot of consternation over those, but I really appreciated that at the end of the day, the that all 5 of us went forward with that, and I think we were really able to reach out to the community, and like you said, not 18 votes, but 18%, and I think it's phenomenal. I've lived here all my days, and I can't wait to see the changes that are about to come to this district, and I really think some new buildings are really going to start drawing some young families back, and people aren't going to, you know, they grow up and go to school and graduate and move out of the county or move wherever they go to, and I really think this is going to have a huge impact on life here in you know, Colerain Green and Springfield Township. I've given some thoughts to my own reelection, which didn't happen, but I thought, would I rather be sitting here reelected without that levy, without the bond issue passing, or the other way around? So I'm really kind of glad that it worked out the way it did, because I'll get a chance to leave here at the very top of having been the president of a board that just over the last couple years has gotten so much done here, and I really appreciate all the support from my fellow board members on this, and I'm as excited as can be. And I used to sit out in that second chair in the second row there, and I'm liable to be back out there in January, but I really want to see this thing through, and I just couldn't be more excited about it. So we will move on to the next item, which is another board item, which is an amendment to the administrative.
I have a comment to add on to Commissioner Evers said.
Sure, we're running late. If you can keep it under 15 seconds, because it's already 9:20.
I understand, but just something to take in consideration with building of a school on Struble property. Is everybody aware that John Rose is going to have a development in the S-curve of John Rose property, and that John Rose is going to be closed at that portion? So you're only going to have one way in and one way out on John Rose to access Struble Elementary within the next couple of years. I don't know if that matters.
Well, that's fine. We'll take that
So,
under consideration.
that's all.
Thank you.
Definitely check with Colerain Township on that.
Yeah, and just to, real quick, Dan, it was just something to throw out there. I mean, and there's going to be a lot of discussion, but they're going to put a senior development there, I believe, or something, and block that off. Thank you.
Township has kept us in the loop on all of that, involved and invited to attend their meetings.
And one other, and which brings up another point. I see that on the Colerain Zoning Board, there's a proposal to put in a apartment complex on Springdale Road between Sheets and Brem, which would put it very close to Colerain Elementary, Colerain Middle, and that's just one of the other things that the administration will be analyzing as some final decisions are made. So we'll continue with this item here, amendment to administrative contract to the treasurer, which is a board item. When we brought in Mrs. Wells as our treasurer, her contract ends on December 31st of, she was here 15, 16, and 17, and we would like to realign that so that it ended at the end of the fiscal year. This is not a change in pay, this is just a extension of the contract so that it would end on July 31st, 2018, which would just get her in sync with the rest of the fiscal year. So I would ask if there is a motion to amend her contract so that it would end on July 31st of 18.
Second.
So motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Chris, could you please call for a vote? And on a 5-0 motion, Amy's contract is amended to July 31st of 18, and we'll go to the next item, which is an executive session. The board will consider a motion to move into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official. Todd.
The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the motion to move into executive session as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? I do not anticipate that we will take action when we come back. We will only come back to close the meeting. So, Amy or Chris, please call for a vote. And the motion to go to executive session ends 5-0. You are welcome to hang out and until we get back.
Or you can go home and watch the Bengals game.
I think I'll hang out.
If they're here, they're probably not Bengal fans.